of ghosts, hauntings, and poltergeists and all that. So stay tuned to Night Dreams Talk Radio.
Night Dreams Talk Radio Network brings you the World Paranormal News with James Creechbaum. Now, the latest news.
This is Night Dreams Talk Radio Network News. I'm James Creechbaum. Harry Turner in 1979, in September 1979, long-haul truck driver Harry Turner. He awoke with a start in his truck in a parking lot. The only problem was he had no memory of the journey he had taken. He sat thinking deeply when he noticed his handgun beside him, as were the empty shells of all 8 rounds. That sparked his mind, and suddenly the episode came flooding back into his brain. He had been traveling on the highway from Winchester to Fredericksburg, Virginia, alone on the road. A strange bright light rapidly came towards his truck. The next thing it seemed that the truck had become enveloped in a strange white light. The steering now no longer under the wheel's control, Turner sat in his seat contemplating his next move. The door to his truck cabin suddenly flew open, and an unpleasant but strong sensation pressed against Turner's shoulder, as if someone or something was pushing and holding him in place in his seat. At this point, he raised his handgun and fired all 8 rounds housed in it. The pressing on his shoulder let up. By this time, consumed by fear and confusion, he lost consciousness. The next thing he knew, he awoke in the warehouse parking lot. His wristwatch stated it was just after 11 p.m. However, a clock on the warehouse wall declared the time to be 3 a.m. Examination of his truck would yield interesting finds also. Despite having just completed an 80-mile trip, his clock only registered that he had traveled 17 of those miles. Man behind exotic U.S. Navy patents speaks out. The engineer responsible for various exotic UFO tech patents has spoken to the media for the first time. Now, back in June of 2019, we reported that the U.S. Navy had patented a number out there technologies based around concepts far in advance of anything that we see used by the military today. Now, among them was a hybrid aerospace underwater craft capable of unparalleled maneuverability both in the water and out of it. Something that happens to sound a lot like the tic-tac pursued by pilots during the infamous U.S. Nimitz incident of 2004. Widow ghost blamed for deaths of 13 men in a Thailand village. At least 13 recent deaths have been linked to the ghost, which locals believe may be the vengeful spirit of a widow who may have become so fed up with men that she's killed a few women too. Now, the most recent death was of a 60-year-old man, and he was found lying unconscious one day on a village road and died shortly afterwards. Now, the Bangkok Post reports that 13 healthy people are known to have died between November of 2019 and January of this year. Fracking to blame for earthquake seismic clusters in central Alberta. On Friday at about 1:17 p.m., suspicious earthquakes in a typically dormant region triggered a review. An earthquake that sent tremors through central Alberta last spring and more recently, rattling homes in Red Deer and temporarily knocking out power in parts of Sylvan Lake was caused by fracking. An investigation by provincial regulators have concluded. Also, there was a glitch that puts NASA's Curiosity Mars rover out of commission. Now, the glitch puts NASA's Curiosity Mars rover out of commission, and NASA's Curiosity rover has experienced a technical glitch, forcing it to stop in its tracks. Now, the team back on the ground is already working on a plan to find out what has caused this glitch. Climate change. Well, climate change could blow up the economy. Banks aren't ready. Like other central banks, the ECB, which met on Thursday, is scrambling to prepare for what report warns could be a coming economic upheaval. Climate change has already been blamed for deadly brush fires in Australia, weathering coral reefs, rising sea levels, and ever more cataclysmic storms. Could it also cause a next financial crisis? Next news break at top of the hour.
Coming to you from some far point station, like a cosmic tumbleweed, both north and south of the Pleiades. Here's your host, Gary Anderson.
And that is me. Boy, these storms seem to get louder and harder all the time. No, actually, you know what? Thank God we haven't had any snow here yet, down at the compound, down at the harbor. But I can tell you what, we went through all last week, 24 hours, 24/7 of heavy rain. I tell you, the horse pasture would look more like, not a horse pasture, but it looked like a lake. That's how bad it was. And it was like about 2 feet deep. Thank God we got one little area where these poor little, miniature horses had to stand because the whole field was underwater.
That is something. Yeah, you guys have been getting a lot of water. And, a lot of your state up through there near the I-5 is supposed to get a lot of snow.
Yeah, that is scary, and that's coming up. Well, right now we got Dr.Barry Taff on the phone. How are you doing tonight, my friend?
I can barely hear you. It sounds like you're underwater.
I hope not. Do I still sound like I'm underwater?
No, it just sounds like you're talking through a bunch of handkerchiefs.
Oh, boy. I don't know what to say because I can try calling you back and maybe we got to...
call me back. This
okay.
is a terrible connection.
Okay, we'll try that.
Thanks.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Well, I've never had anybody say that. I sound like I'm talking out of water, but it is a possibility that could be. Let me check here and see. We'll change things around a little bit, and then we'll give them a try back. Okay. Well, hopefully that cured it. We'll find out. I hate Skype.
There?
Well, hopefully it's not as bad, Doctor.
It's even worse.
Oh, boy. I don't know what I can say.
I'm hearing lots of... we could try it, but it's going to be... I hope there's no more noise because I won't be... It sounds like there's 60 hertz noise on the system.
Oh, wow. I'm trying to figure out what it could be because...
it just got better. It's funny. It just went away.
Well, maybe it's the atmospheric conditions of the ionosphere charging up there. I don't know. Maybe it's the subject we've been talking about here tonight. But anyway, Dr. Barry Taff, I just want to say thank you for coming on the show. I mean, you are the godfather when it comes to paranormal.
Well, we did do our best to do scientific research and convey the information to the public and learn by that process. So that's the whole reason I'm in it.
Well, how long have you been into it, and what got you into the paranormal?
Well, let's see. I've been in it for my whole life, but professionally started in 1969, so we're talking about 51 years. Different people have different reasons for getting into the field. With me, it was a two-pronged approach. One was natural curiosity, and the reason I was so curious about this field was because growing up, I was having a lot of paranormal experiences, telepathic, clairvoyant, precognitive, out of body, and I thought, well, everyone has this. Well, they may have it, but they don't discuss it, or they don't remember it, or they just don't have it. These things were as normal to me as breathing would be to most people. I got to the point where I wanted to know why. What's different about me? In my new book, which I'm still writing, there's a whole section up front, which is really what led me into this. So what happened was, there's a lot of stories going back to my ability seemed to be very clearly honed in certain areas. One of them is being a medical intuitive, and this is since I was a child, before I knew anything about medicine. But let me give you the most simplistic way this can happen, and then the most intense.
Okay.
In 2008 or 9, The Dark Knight movie came out. So I went to see it with an old friend of mine from UCLA. We never dated. we touched base again. She moved back to L.A. We went to see the movie. So we drove there separately. The movie starts, and she had to go because her daughter needed her. So we had driven there separately. So, okay, she left. I didn't. So while she was there, though, for 20 minutes, we got there early, she sat next to me. My bladder felt like it was going to explode, burning, cramping, spasming. It was horrible. And I'm going, oh, what's going on? So then she leaves. Within a few minutes, I'm fine. So when my friend calls me, her name was Lauren, I said to her, I told her, the movie was really good. I said, but, I didn't feel too good. I said, she goes, why? I said, well, my bladder was killing me because I've had a bad bladder infection all week.
Interesting.
So this is the low end of it. The high end of it was I was 10 years old at grammar school. And, what do you know? You're 10 years old, you're playing, you're in the courtyard playing during recess, whatever. This little blonde girl was walking towards me named Christine, wearing a sky blue dress and a big sunflower on it. And I'm looking at her, and then this vision cut in, which it had before, but I didn't pay it too much attention because I figured, who cares? And it's like in Man of Steel, where he's in class and he suddenly is able to look through people. That's what it was. That's what it is. And I could see under her dress there was the plastic bag on her right side and a tube going into her body. Now, I didn't know what a colostomy was. I was 10 years old. So I went up to her and I asked her, what's the bag and tube for? And she started screaming, got the teacher. They dragged me to their principal's office. And the principal said, hey, you're in trouble, Barry. I could have you arrested and, thrown out of school for this, if not just suspended. I go, so what did you do? Did you sneak in the girl's bathroom, or did you look under her dress? I said, I didn't either. The vision kicked in. He goes, the what? Like extra vision, like Superman. He goes, all right, I'm going to call your parents. Okay, he gets my mother on the phone, and he starts telling her what happened. And she goes, Barry can do that. And the principal went, what? She said, Barry can do this. And the guy goes, what are you talking about? What are you crazy? Are you crazy? You crazy as your son? He hung up on my mom. And then he looked at me, and he didn't know what to do. I'm blah, blah, blah. He's reprimanding me. If it ever happens again, blah, blah. So I'm looking at him. I said, you get that a scar for when you had an appendicitis, an appendectomy, and it's always purple. I call it a keloid now. I didn't know what the word was then. And I told him, and he turned a couple different shades of color. And he said, I don't know who and what you are, but if he causes this problem again, you're out of here. And I'm going to make sure you'll be arrested. Well, it did happen again, but I was foolish enough to talk about it. I could close my eyes and envision friends and tell you what they were doing and where they were at. And, okay, so you're psychic. So why me? Why not my friends and family? I was the black sheep of the family early on because of this. So there was a woman, by 1967, a woman who developed and ran a parapsychology laboratory at UCLA at the Neuropsychiatric Institute. And her name was Dr. Thelma Moss. Now, she started out life as an actress and a writer. She wrote a really interesting film called The Colossus of New York, which, interestingly enough, has paranormal elements to it. Good film in the heyday of sci-fi. Anyway, so when her husband passed away, she went back to school, got her doctorate in clinical psych, and became a professor of clinical psychology at the university in the Neuropsychiatric Institute. So I knew of this. I read about her work. I wrote her letters. No response. Called the switchboard, left a message. No response. Went down there, went up to her office. No one was there. What am I supposed to do? So after a couple more letters and no response, I gave it up. It turned out I met one of her graduate students who worked in the lab, and I talked to him, and he said, okay, I'll tell Dr. Moss, and she'll call you, and you go meet her, okay? So it was spring of 1969. I was to meet her at her house in Beverly Hills, which was a few minutes from where I lived with my parents. And so I went to meet her, And I knew nothing about it except the paranormal research she had been doing. So she said, okay,